Hey, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another video. Alright, I have managed to find a little bit of time because my mother is currently watching my daughter at the minute because of work reasons. If you saw my community post, you know I've been looking after my daughter a little bit more than usual. I basically had to take her in full time due to certain circumstances, and yeah, she has to go to school tomorrow due to me being at work early. And my mother was just like, look, she can just stay at mine, I'll take her to school and then I'll just pick her up. It's a lot easier. I don't know why I'm getting into all that. It's got nothing to do with the video, but if you saw my community post, you know that that's why the videos are a little bit more sporadic than usual. I'm terrible with the schedule, but yeah, they'll just be a little bit more spread out just in case you didn't see it. But anyways, I do have a little bit of time, so quickly, tomorrow will be a reaction because she's back at school, like I just said. So when I get back, I'll be able to make a video, an actual reaction, rather than, you know, these story time videos. But anyway, back to that. I wanted to talk about every single injury that I've ever had, which isn't a lot, but it is something. I have had a couple of injuries, which I say is my best friend's fault. Steven, if you're watching this, it's your fault. Every time I get an injury, I always blame it on him because it just, you know, whether I am with him, I've been on the phone to him. I know some of you will say, well, of course, he's your best friend. You probably speak to him quite often. That may be true, but it's still his fault. All right. And I will, any injury that I sustain from this day until the day I die is going to be his fault. But anyways, starting with number one, just to put into context, I've had technically 4 injuries, but 3 stories that will be coming up because 2 of them were in one terrible injury. So yeah, starting in order. So the first thing I did was I broke my foot, but it technically wasn't. It was sort of like, say, you know, I don't want to start whipping my feet out on here. Trust me, nobody wants to see that. But so basically, to pretend this is my foot, so it was like down the side, sort of where like the joint is that goes up into your pinky toe. So it was like down here. I cracked it, and the story behind that one is a story as old as time itself. So we were out playing Beat the Letter. Now that could just be a British thing. I don't know if like you guys over the pond or anywhere else in the world play Beat the Letter, but if you don't know what it is, I'll quickly break it down because it sounds like a terrible game, and it totally is. So basically what you would do is you would get letters and you would get beaters, right? The letters, depending on how many people there were, I think there was like probably like 8 of us. So there was like 4 beaters and 4 letters. So the beaters, like the name of the game, would have to beat the letter out of the person. Basically give them dead arms, I don't know, Chinese burn, whatever it is. In order to make the person give up their letter. And then once everybody's given up their letter, they have to try and figure out the word that, you know, we have. So let's say there's 4 of it and we pick feet to be or foot to be our word. One would get like F, O, T, you know. I don't know why I'm explaining. It's super simple to follow on. But anyways, we were playing that game and we were playing it just down from where I lived at my mother's, which is next to a church. And the church was closed, so technically we're not supposed to be in there. But, you know, kids being kids, of course we were in there. We were running around like nut jobs. And clearly there's a community center, I guess you would call it, that was right next to the church. And clearly somebody was still in there, despite it being a Sunday, I'm pretty sure it was. So we were running around and someone decided to ring the police on us. The fact that we were technically trespassing. So we get there, we're halfway done with our Beat the Letter game, and the police show up. It's just, obviously, it was just one van. It's not like anything, they were just gonna be like, look, don't go in there because you're technically trespassing, just, you know, go on with your day. But as I go out, as I mentioned in the last story time as well, I was not one of those kids that really got into trouble. So when I saw the police, I freaked out. I was like, oh my god, dude, what are we gonna do? So this guy that I was with, he frequented trouble with the police. He was one of those people that sort of like went around and, you know, he got into fights and stuff like that. but I was with him, and he was like, come on, let's go. Like, we're not gonna walk out and be like, oh yeah, we've been caught. We'll just hop over the gate, and we'll just, you know, toddle along and just pretend like, you know, it wasn't us. So obviously I just go with him, and there are these green gates. There was like 3 of them in a row. I don't know why there was this many, but there was like 3 gates in a row in this like long stretch of path. So we started like jumping over these gates because the police is like coming around this way. So we start jumping around, and then there was a big gate at the end, or a big fence, I guess. And you would jump over that and jump down, and then, you know, just go down the path and pretend like you weren't even there. So we start jumping over the path. It's jumping over these green gates, and oh my god, it hurt so much. But I jumped, and I'm honestly thankful that the injury wasn't worse, because I've heard stories of people walking off of a curb that's like this off the ground and shattering their ankle by like landing on the side of it. So I'm really thankful that it wasn't worse than what it could have been. So I jump off these gates, and these gates are they're pretty high off the ground. I'd say you can't really see the top of that, but basically where the top of my Hashirama, all these like pop funkers here, is essentially the top of it. You just can't really see the top, but it's about that off the floor. So it's a decent height. And I jump down and I land. So here's my foot, and it lands like this, and my foot sort of like bounces off the ground. And obviously I like sort of fell on the ground, and then got back up and jumped over the next one, ran over, jumped over the remaining fence that was there, and sort of like I was like hopping down, because my friend who jumped over, he went right and started walking back up to like the street where we lived, and I went left because there was like a gate I could hide there, and I really just wanted to check out what the hell was wrong with my foot, because that was painful. So I get over and I jump down and I look, and oh my god, my entire ankle, like up the side of my leg, up the side of my foot, sorry, up until my ankle, had bruised already, and not 30 seconds had passed from this point. And I was like, oh my god, that hurt. That really freaking hurt. And then, you know, I sort of stumbled back up to my mother's, and I'm like, I think my mom was out at the time, so I went to my nana's, because my nana used to live next door to me. And I go to my nana's, and she's like, oh, hello, son. And then I start like hobbling in. She's like, Ryan, what's wrong? What's happened? So I sit down, I take my shoe off, and I take my sock off. And she looks at me, she's like, oh my gosh, what have you done? She's like, that's so bad. Like, what's happened to your foot? And I was like, obviously I explained the story to her. Obviously I didn't explain the whole police thing, because she would have murdered me. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, I was jumping over a fence, and I fell and landed on it wrong, and now it looks like this. It might need amputated. Of course it didn't need amputated. I was a very dramatic child. But yeah, ended up fracturing my foot, which, like I said, I'm really thankful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, because, like I said, I've heard stories of some really bad injuries that have happened, and it's not nice at all. Of course, my foot is completely fixed now. Like, it doesn't, there's no like lasting injuries, I don't think. Like, I can still feel sort of when I move. I'm moving it right now, but I can still feel sort of where I've moved it, where it was broken. That's where it was broken. I can still kind of feel it, but it doesn't hurt or anything. It's never given me any problems. Unlike my third injury, which I will talk about, which is probably technically the worst one, but I'm giving number 2 the worst one. Which brings us on to injury number 2, a one that I can actually show you guys. So basically, I don't know how good it'll pick up on the camera. Hold on, let me move this light away a little bit. There, you can probably see it. So this up here, there's a scar that goes from here all the way up, and it goes into there. You can't really see it, but you can see the little dots, which is the stitches. And my skin just looked horrendous there. Oh my god, disgusting. But yeah, so there's a giant scar that goes up my hand and through here into here. So all this basically split open. It was disgusting. When I was a kid, and I mean still now, I can deal with gore when it's on films, on films. So Final Destination, all that stuff doesn't really bother me. It used to when I was a kid, but now like that doesn't bother me. But gore itself, like seeing it in real life, not a big fan of that at all. But so we're in I was gonna say the name of my school there. We're in my high school, because it was literally just behind where I used to live. And me and my friend were in there and we were like running around playing hide and seek or something. It used to have a bunch of different stuff, and technically you weren't allowed in there, so again it was sort of trespassing. But loads of people used to like go into there and go up to the top pitches because there was a football pitch up there. But we were just, you know, roaming around, just chilling, having a good time. And as we're doing this, we're in a little car park area, and there was security that was always on the premises, so they clearly saw us on the camera or had just went out for a smoke or something and saw us roaming around. So sort of like shouted to us and told us to get out. So we decided to run for it. Again, nothing would have happened. Like, we've been caught loads of times, like, being in there, and they're just like, look, you know you're not supposed to come in yet, just, like, leave. And that's pretty much it. Like, as long as you don't kick up a fuss or anything, they've got no reason to call the police. It's not that serious. But we decided to run for it because, you know, assuming they're probably going to, I don't know, call the police or something, which I don't know why we would think that. Because, like I just said, we had been thrown out there before. But regardless, we ran. And all the way around the perimeter of the actual school were obviously like green fences, like green gates that like stopped anyone just being able to get onto the premises, which, you know, every place has that. But these ones were the it was like green checkered fences, and it had these tiny little like sort of, well, they weren't spikes, but they did have a bit of a sharp edge at the top, which obviously stopped people from being able to climb over. Because if it was just a dull edge, people would just be able to climb through the grate and just sort of jump over. So obviously, to stop people jumping up, they usually leave a little spike there. So I'm sitting here like, let's go. So I start climbing. My other friend's like, whoa, like, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, oh, it'll be fine, man. It'll be fine. So as I'm climbing over the fence, I get to the top, and it's kind of really difficult to climb over that part. And as I'm like I managed to do it, but as I'm climbing back down, I sort of like fall, because it's a really flimsy fence. Like, they're really skinny, and the fence sort of like bends a little bit, and I sort of fell off the top of the fence, and I fell down, and I like smacked my back off the floor. And luckily, again, it could have been so much worse. I could have cracked my head or anything. Don't be stupid, kids. If you're watching this, don't be stupid, right? Just don't climb over spiked fences. So I get up after like smack my back. Luckily, I'm not winded or anything. I'm just kind of like, oof. So I'm like, you know, thingying myself down a little bit. And I look over to my hand, and obviously I'm just like this, like to see if I've got any cuts or anything. Oh my God, did I have a cut? So as I look at my hand and I like open my palms up, this, where my scar is now, obviously that's where the cut was, just goes, and so it like opens up. And obviously, like I said, the cut goes all the way through my finger. So my hand sort of like spreads a little bit, and I can see my bone here. Like, I'm like 13 or something at the time. I freak out because I can see my bone, so I start like panicking, and I'm looking over at my friend like, come on, quickly climb over. I'm gonna go get the sword. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, go. Like, I'll just go through the gate. Like, I don't care. Like, just go. Get it seen to. So I'm freaking out, like walking down, like holding my hand together basically. And I get down there, and I'm like freaking out, and I go into my mom's house, and my mom, she can't handle blood on the telly. Like, she's watching like, I don't know, some hospital I was trying to think of a hospital documentary or like show or anything like that. But she's watching something like that, and people are getting operated on or anything. She has to look away. She cannot stare at gore or blood in the slightest means. So of course, I walk in and I'm crying, freaking out. And she runs in like, what's wrong? What's happened? And I open my hand, I show her my hand, and immediately she's just, and like, she go into the kitchen. Like, so I walk into the kitchen freaking out, and she puts the tap on, she runs my hand under the cold tap, and then goes in and tells my nana, because my nana used to always have like medical kits and things. I think it's just like an old person thing to have medical kits just lying around. So she runs in, she like bandages up my hand and stuff like that. Again, I'm still freaking out at this point. So we had to go to I think I went to the walk-in center at first. I didn't actually go straight to the hospital. I went to the walk-in center, and the woman undid my bandage and was having a look around at my hand and stuff like that. And she was like, there is nothing we can do here. Like, you're going to have to go to the hospital and get like a proper hand surgeon, because of how awkward the placement was. Obviously, it being through the webbing of my hand and stuff like that. She was like, yeah, you're going to have to get that stitched up by a professional hand surgeon. So, you know, that's great. So I think like, where was it? Maybe the next day or a couple of days after that, obviously she professionally done my hand up and things they had, and was just like, right, I'll obviously put you through to the hospital and you get you an appointment and stuff like that. So I go there and get my hand stitched up and everything, which was fun. That was real fun. Yeah, that's the story of my second injury, which to me was probably the worst, especially when I had to get the stitches out, because I went there and they decide to use a trainee nurse, a nurse that was training up, and of course I'm sort of freaking out as a kid, as you do, and she's like cutting the stitches off, and obviously she's a trainee, so she's kind of nervous. I'm like, you know, trying to keep my hand as still as possible. So, you know, that was always fun. I always get the trainee nurses, which, you know, it's not their fault. They're training, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was nice. I also had a little bit of flesh just hanging off there that I sort of twisted and just pulled off, which was cool. Very cool. But anyways, now that one's done, which I guess is probably the worst for me, we'll quickly get on to number 3. Number 3 was a whammy because it was a doubler. So again, I was on my bike, right? And to put into a little context for you, it's not the bike that's there. This was the bike that I had previous to that, which was a BMX, because I really wanted to get into BMX at one point. So it was a black and purple, proper like stunt bike BMX, like with the seat all the way down and stuff like that. And I had that, and it was great. It worked really well, apart from one thing, which was that the chain kept coming off. I didn't know why it kept coming off, but if I like pedaled too fast or I pressed too hard down, the chain would come off. And I told my mother this numerous times. I told her, and she was like, "Oh, it's fine, man. It's probably just the chain coming off. Like, it's a normal thing." And I'm like, no. There is something wrong with this bike. This chain is falling off for a reason. And my uncle is like big on like motorbikes and cars and stuff like that. So I wanted to take it up to him so he could have a look at it and be like, yeah, I can sort this out like that. Because he would have. But, you know, we didn't. My mom was like, nah, it's fine, man. It's fine. Just try to be careful with it. So I'm at Stevens, my best friend who I was referring to when I said all of my injuries are his fault. Again, I was there. And it was me and my ex-girlfriend. And we leave, and I go to the bus stop with her, and I'm waiting on the bus stop, and it was also so embarrassing as well, but we'll get to that point in a moment. The bus comes along, I say goodbye to her, and I start to pedal down. It's basically one long shot down from the bus stop to my mom's house, where I lived at the time. So I'm pedaling, and basically what had happened was, obviously the chain came off, as you probably surmised, but it came off at the worst possible point. So I'm going pretty goddamn fast, right? And I get to the point where my foot is at the very top of the pedal. And as I'm pushing down, the chain comes off. And if you guys know, when the chain comes off, your pedal doesn't have that anchor to stop it from just spinning. So it came off and the pedal span right around because I'm pushing down on it, which meant my foot just went and smacked off the floor, which made my bike flip with me on it. And I sort of go like smacking onto the ground. I'm just lying there defeated as the bus that my girlfriend was on just goes straight past me, and she's just kind of like staring at me lying on the floor dead. And I was like, oh, this couldn't get any more embarrassing if I tried. So anyways, I'm lying there dying, and this nice man who had like just been walking home from the shops, I assume, came back up after seeing me like fall off, and he was like, oh my god, he's like, dude, are you okay? Like, are you fine? I was like, yeah, I was like, I think I'm all right. And like, I lifted up and stuff like that. My knee was really hurting at this point, and I was like, yeah. He's like, are you sure you're okay? So he helped me onto this wall that's next to where I fell, and he was like, yeah, he grabbed my bike, pulled my bike out of the way and everything, and I'm sort of like lying there like, oh, my knee. And he's like, are you good? Like, are you sure you're good? You don't need me to ring anybody or anything? I was like, no, it's fine. I'll text my mom, and like, you know, if I need to and all that. I was like, thank you for helping me. He's like, no, it's absolutely fine. So he toddles off, and I'm sort of lying there, and my knee stopped hurting. But as my knee stopped hurting, I noticed my hand started really hurting, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, it's throbbing. I was like, this really freaking hurts. So at this point, I'm starting to get like dizzy because I'm like, obviously, you know, I've like injured myself pretty bad. And I'm like feeling really faint. And I had just bought a Gorman's, which was a fish and chip shop next to mine. It's called Gorman's. So I rip open the packet and I rip open the chips and I'm just shoveling these chips down my throat. Like, oh my God, like I need to like, stop almost passing out, yeah. And I text mine because I tried to lift up and I was going to like sort of like just hobble on my bike. But I couldn't press down on my hand because obviously I broke it and my leg was damaged as well. So I was like, this is no good. So I rang my mom and I was like, she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I think, oh no, sorry. I texted her and I was just like, I need you to like come and like, help me. Like I need you to come and get me because I literally can't move. I'm next to Sainsbury's, which was next where I fell over. And she was like, right, okay. She had been drinking at this point as well. She was pretty drunk. Because it was like a Saturday night or something like that. So she had a couple of drinks in the house. So she goes over and she goes to get this woman who I'm friends with her son. And they both woke up to Sainsbury's and she's like, what have you done? And I was like, I'm not joking. I think I might have broke my leg or something. And she's laughing. She's like, oh, don't be stupid. I very much doubt you've done that. So the way they got me down was I basically sat on the bike. Bearing in mind, again, it's a BMX bike. So it's like this. Like the seat's like down here and obviously the frame goes up and they grab my leg and they put my leg on top of the steering wheel. So I'm like holding the handlebar, the steering wheel. I'm holding the handlebars where my leg's on top of it because I can't lift it. And my other leg's sort of like balancing myself. And they're just one's at one side, one's at the other side, and they're just sort of toddling down. But again, my mom's a little tipsy at this point, so she keeps sort of like falling with me. And obviously my mom's a small woman. She's like 5'2" or some crap like that. She's a small woman, and Wendy, which is the name of the other woman, she's also really small as well. So they're both struggling to get me down, and eventually I did. My mom was like, look, sleep on it. Like if it's still hurting in the morning or something, like I'll take it to, because my stepdad had been drinking as well, so obviously he wasn't able to drive me or anything. Like if it's still hurting in the morning, we'll take you down to the hospital or the walking center and we'll see what's up. So I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. I got no sleep that entire night. I was in so much goddamn pain and it wasn't even my knee, it was my hand. My hand was absolutely in agony. I had like a pillow under my knee, but because obviously I couldn't really sleep on my side, again, because of the leg situation. So I'm tossing and turning like my head like this, and it's just my hand. I am in agony with it. So I ended up going to the hospital and getting x-rays and stuff after sitting at the hospital for so long, which, may I say, thank God for the NHS, because I would have probably had to pay, I don't even know how much to get that sorted because of the amount of x-rays. I've had so many x-rays in my life. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. But anyways, I get my knee checked out and I get my hand checked out. And the woman, she's like looking at the x-ray and she's pressing on like, you know, different parts of my hand. She's like, does this part hurt? I'm like, no. Does this part hurt? No. And she presses right on the brake. Obviously, for me to be like, ah, yeah, that's where it hurts. Yeah, but that's where you broke your hand. So she presses down on it, and she's like, does that hurt? I'm like, no. And she's like looks over at the monitor, and she's like, presses down again. She's like, does it hurt there? And I'm like, no. And she's like, don't be brave or anything. If it does hurt, like, let me know. And I was like, no. I said, it doesn't hurt, because I broke my scaphoid bone basically, which is like here or here. Apparently it's the worst bone to break, but also the most common bone to break. But it was my wrist that was hurting. It wasn't the actual hand itself. I was like, no. I was like, it's really hurting down here. And she was like, it's really weird. Like, I'm pressing right down on the brake right now. Like, this is where you've actually broke your hand. I was like, huh. All right, that's a bit weird. But yeah, so I ended up breaking my hand, and also the bone in my knee that lets you like flex your knee and straighten out your knee, I had chipped off the tip of that bone. Not broke it, chipped it off completely. And it stopped me from actually being able to physically straighten my leg. So I ended up having to get surgery on that. So I've got a pretty sized scar, about that size, up my knee. Obviously where they had to do surgery. The guy came in, he was like, look, technically speaking, you don't need to get surgery on it. It will fix sort of over time, but you'll never really be able to like straighten it out again, and you'll probably have a lot more trouble with it in the future where you're going to have to get surgery anyways. So I was like, yeah, no, screw it. Like, I'll just get the surgery now. Like, it'll be a lot easier. But yeah, oh my God, the agony I was in when he had to like check to see if he could straighten my bone, like the physio guy. He comes in and he's pressing right down on my leg because he needs to obviously see if I can straighten it at all, and it wouldn't straighten. And he's pressing and pressing and I felt like he was doing freaking, like, you know, he was trying to resuscitate me or something. And he's just like this, pressing down, and I'm just sat there like a kid, like. But you know, yeah. So I ended up chipping the bone, got that done. So now I have 2 bolts in my knee, which is nice. And yeah, currently, because there will be more to come, I'm sure. But currently, those are the most injuries. I've had like scrapes and scratches and stuff like that, but those are the 4 biggest and most painful injuries that I've had, which isn't nice. Not nice at all. Wouldn't recommend it. Especially that one, like I said, that didn't hurt at all, my hand. But it was the sheer fact that I saw my bone in my hand was sort of like split open, just it was gross. I'd freak out even now. I'm 25 years of age. If I saw that, I'd still freak the hell out. But yeah, another little story time video. It actually went on for a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I do massively appreciate all of your support. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.